Nowadays, it seems like no one could shut up about movement in video games, mainly in FPSs. I swear, it used to not be like this, but every game nowadays gets opinions from everyone on how the movement looks. Especially with all the COD kids who just can't stop spinning and YYing and shit. Like, please, just aim the gun, man. Unless you're someone like me who's constantly trying to improve at every game they play, just so they can beat their friends, movement is something that you might not think about much. You might think that movement is something you or other players constantly think about, but it's not. This is a very purposeful choice that game developers make for a variety of reasons, but the main one is to keep you playing. Going from point A to point B to either shoot this guy or get that item is a good chunk of gameplay in most games. So not only why, but how do you not think about it? Hi, I'm John Tortoise and I've been playing video games my whole life. A lot with good movement and a lot with bad movement. Today, I'm going to be talking about movement within video games and some games I played with movement so good that your character just feels like a natural extension of your body. As I said before, game developers don't want you thinking about the movement in your regular gameplay. The reason is simple. It's similar to how they don't want you to have to stop and look at the controls. The second you have to think, the immersion is broken. And you can end up with something like this. Game, put me on the jump pad, man! Thinking about movement usually means you don't know how to move effectively, or worse, you realize that the game is boring you. You probably stopped playing games due to bad movement without even realizing it. That's why game developers don't want you to think about movement. But the how is an entirely different story. I've learned that the games with the best movement typically follow the easy to learn, hard to master approach. But obviously there are plenty of exceptions, some of which I'll even be talking about. For now, let's talk about one of my favorite platformers in recent memory, Mario Odyssey. Out of every genre, platformers are easily the most affected by movement. Mario Odyssey benefits from its movement in a way I haven't seen before in any game. While it's not my favorite 3D Mario game, it is by far the best feeling and most satisfying one to date. On top of that, the game is just a lot of fun to play at all times, and it achieves this because of its movement. There are sections in this game that would be brutal to play through without this game's mechanics. Could you imagine having to constantly long jump through this big ass desert in Mario 64 Galaxy? Thankfully in Odyssey, you just get to roll in a ball or control a line to get wherever you want to go very quickly. Nintendo managed to combine the basic controls of past 3D Marios with the new capping mechanics in a way that makes the game feel really snappy and smooth. Mario Odyssey is a game that had me constantly thinking about movement, but it was never due to confusion or frustration. The game pushes players into discovering what works and doesn't work within its movement system. And when you learn to use your dive effectively, you start feeling like the possibilities are endless. And they might be. Speedrunners have been pushing this game to its limit since its first release, and it only took the community 2 years to achieve a sub-hour run. Nowadays, the record is at 55 minutes, and I imagine it will continue to drop as time goes on. If the new Donkey Kong game is any bit similar to Mario Odyssey, you may be in for another classic 3D platformer. We'll get back to Nintendo in a little bit, but for now I want to talk about one of the most fun shooters I've ever played, Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is a first-person shooter designed to make you feel almost superhuman. At its core, the movement includes the typical FPS options of running, jumping, and sliding, but it allows for much more advanced movement including wall running, double jumping, and bunny hopping. Everything except bunny hopping is taught to you very quickly when booting up the game, and it all feels very natural and easy to control on both mouse and keyboard and controller. Movement isn't always limited to what the developers think is possible. The players can have a lot of say on how a game is played. In Titanfall 2's case, the players strung together the grappling hook and bunny hopping to conserve momentum, allowing players to fly across the map at absurd speeds. I only play the game casually every now and then, so I'm not the best example of how fast this game can get. If you start to look into speedrunning for this game, you'll see players who are much more capable and significantly faster than I am. Titanfall 2's movement is a perfect mixture of simple, natural feeling controls and advanced tech that just scratches an itch in your brain and keeps you coming back for more. There's never a dull moment in this game just because of how fun it is to move around. If you haven't played Titanfall 2, I highly suggest giving it a try as it goes on sale like every month on Steam. The game allows for so much expression and movement and really lets the player do what they want at any given moment. That being said, no game lets you express yourself quite like this next one.
Whoa! That down smash. Stop. What is the movement, Eyes? What is the movement? Stop. Is he gonna get it before a minute? Passes? Whoa, let's see. He's right to the edge. Oh my god! Destruction! Oh, nice.
Bear with me during this section. I'm biased a little because this game is a huge part of my life. That being said, I am not good enough to do this game the justice it deserves, so not all of the gameplay will be mine. People will equate Melee to just about everything. And I know it sounds dramatic, but sometimes when you're playing or watching, it feels like you're witnessing art. Obviously, When talking about the gameplay, not everyone feels this way, and I feel like the main reason is the lack of a buffer system, meaning inputting anything too early will just result in your character doing nothing. This can make the game feel unresponsive to newer players, but if you're willing to put in the time, you'll learn that you always feel like you're 100% in control. Once you get good enough, you start to feel how I imagine a swordsman feels after years of practice. There are so many ways to speed up your character that competitive and casual Melee just look like two different games entirely. There are a couple of mechanics Melee has that work together to make it the best feeling platform fighter by far. As I mentioned, the lack of a buffer system means you are always in control. If you're doing something you don't want to, it is 100% your fault. One of the main mechanics that makes Melee feel less floaty than newer Smash titles is that all your character's momentum carries when you jump. This means if you're running at full speed, you'll jump and retain that speed, allowing you to get farther quicker. Of course, there are also plenty of other mechanics that make this game what it is, but I don't think I'm a good enough teacher to explain them. In tournament, competitors are able to string together all Melee's mechanics in a way that is always awesome to witness. It's the only game I'm willing to spend money to compete in, despite not putting in the hours to be the best. It is just that fun to play. Melee really is just like jazz and chess and skateboarding and drumming and beer ball. But if you're not into the competitive aspect of video games, there's still plenty of games with good movement for you. This game is so fun, man. It definitely appeals to the casual gamer more than anyone else, but I don't think that takes away from the game at all. Swinging was so addicting in the first game, and as the series has gone on, it only has improved. A lot of my hours in this game might just be me swinging around with no goal in mind because it just feels so good to do. The first game was a little more basic in its mechanics, but it still felt really fun to play. But with Miles Morales, and especially the second game, it really immerses you into this world's version of New York. In the second game, they made the swinging speed significantly faster, so you could just swing through the city and get to the other side at blazing speeds. I also love all the new abilities they added that allows both Spider-Man to retain their momentum much easier. You know the feeling you get driving around the GTA map aimlessly? The entirety of Spider-Man is like that on steroids. And thankfully, Insomniac realized just how fun it was in the first game and went all out on the sequels to make swinging even better. With the updated trick system and giving Peter more fluidity in his movements, you just never want to stop swinging in this game. And honestly, I think it may be a detriment to the overall game, because the combat just seems boring in comparison. Now, I do have a couple honorable mentions that I thought had to be talked about at least a little bit. First up is Celeste, and Celeste is just a very good game. I really can't think of anything it does wrong in the slightest. It's not too easy or hard, and when you're stuck on a level, you don't hate yourself because you just respawn immediately and get to try again. It's great. It's very fun to play because the mechanics and controls make the game feel very responsive, and on top of that, it's very fun to see how your momentum carries. Now, I don't want to talk too much about this, but Call of Duty's most recent installment, Black Ops 6, has a very quick and fluid movement system. They introduce Omni movement, allowing players to sprint, slide, and dive in any direction at any time, and it just feels very smooth. I rarely do something I don't want to do in this game. Of course, the game has other issues, but I feel like Omni movement is a step in the right direction gameplay-wise, and I wouldn't be surprised if other games start to implement similar systems. For anyone that doesn't know, the Finals is a class-based shooter, meaning that there are 3 classes, each with different movement speed and health. Obviously, playing as the light class gives you the most movement options, and wow, there are a lot. Portals, grappling hooks, and the best one, the dash, are just some examples of the light's movement options. There are also jump pads and zip lines everywhere, allowing teams to move through the map very quickly, and that is very necessary in a team shooter like this one. All of these aspects work together very well, but unfortunately, you'll just be dying to defense players and mines mostly. Thank you for watching. Comment below if you think I missed any games with good movement. I might make another one of these if I feel like I have enough games to talk about. Like and sub, and I've been streaming recently, so go follow the Twitch. The link is in the description.